I'm here at Animal Kingdom for the first time. I'm gonna do some fat guy ride testing.
This was me. I tipped the scales at 415 pounds. Then, while planning a vacation to Universal Studios for my family, I realized that I was not going to fit on the rides. Worried that my size and limitations would ruin my family's vacation, I decided to start making some changes. This is me now. I'm still a big guy, but I've lost 94 pounds. And I'm still working on it. But while on my weight loss journey, I have rediscovered my childhood love of theme parks. I've also discovered that there are many others like me that would like to enjoy the parks but share the same concerns about fitting onto the rides that I do.
Well, I have done the hard work for you. I have risked embarrassment and the dreaded walk of shame to fat guy test every single ride in the park, so you'll know exactly which rides you can and can't fit on. Here we have the entrance to Disney's Animal Kingdom Park. As you come in, you're going to go through the Oasis, which is a zoological area with several animal exhibits that obviously are prominent, and as soon as you come in, because it is Animal Kingdom after all, you are going to go through to the main part of the park here. You have a couple of choices. You can go left and go southwest into Pandora, but for this video, I'm going to start by going right. I'm going to go southeast into Dino Land USA, because I like to go counterclockwise around the park because I am right-handed and it just feels natural. First thing you're going to come to, as you come across the bridge into Dinoland USA, you are going to go south to our first attraction here, which is Dinosaur the Ride. Okay, let's take a moment here to look at the ride seats and restraints. As you can see, the seats are pretty wide and forgiving. There is a small divider between seats, as you will see here, and here and here. And they may cause a bit of discomfort for anyone extra wide in the hip area. You also have a bit more room if you sit in one of the central seats, because as you will see here, the seats on the end are going to be a little more confining because of this small sidewall. I know if you're like me, you may be a little concerned with encroaching on the personal space of those sitting next to you. So if that's the case, you should try to sit with friends and family where possible, because you will be close physically to those sitting next to you. The only restraint on this ride is going to be this single seat belt that will go across your lap from right to left, as you will see here. And like the single belt restraints on other Disney rides, this one is pretty large and forgiving. What you're going to want to do is pull the belt out to max length before you sit down, and hold it at length as you sit. Once you sit, you can buckle it in place and then let the slack out if necessary. I believe this will be your best approach to fitting on this ride. I had no issues when I rode at about 325 pounds, and I could see someone larger being able to fit up to about 400, 425, depending on your exact body style and dimensions. After you finish Dinosaur the Ride, you are going to go north through the park here into the main Dinoland USA area. We are going to see Triceratops Spin. Here is the seat for a Triceratops Spin. There's not a whole lot to this one. There is a bench seat that can fit from 1 to 3 people depending on party and person size. There is a bit of a step up and a slightly narrowed door to step through to get in. But if you can manage that, the seat itself should be fairly comfortable for just about any size. The only restraint on this ride will be the single seat belt designed to go over all parties sitting in the seat. It is very forgiving and should easily be able to fit around most. Basically, if you're physically able to manage your way into the ride itself, you should be able to get the seat belt around you. I would say at least up to 400, 425 pounds plus. When I rode Triceratops Spin for the first time, I was about 325. I had no issues. I rode it with my daughter. And the year before, I rode Dumbo at about 400 pounds, which is essentially the same ride as Triceratops Spin. It's a clone of Dumbo and the Magic Carpets of Aladdin from over in the Magic Kingdom. So if you know you can ride either one of those, you can ride this. And just over here beside Triceratops Spin is the roller coaster, Primeval Whirl. Here is the ride car for the Primeval Whirl Wild Mouse Coaster. It's designed to fit a maximum of 4 people per cart and divided 2 and 2. If you look closely at the seats here, you will see a small raised portion of the seat intended to show the division for the 2 people sitting in the same bucket seat. But to me, this raised portion serves merely as a suggestion. If you're someone much wider, or if you're by yourself, You're well within the ride rules if you want to overlap into the other section. This race suggestion division is a little annoying, but not enough of a hassle to keep you from riding just in case you need to sit on it a little bit. The only restraint on this ride is the overhead bar that you will see here. After you're seated, it will come down and lock into place in almost the same manner as a pullback lap restraint on other roller coasters. This bar should give you plenty of space to pull down as much or as little as needed to secure it against your midsection. Just be aware though, that the bar is only going to come down as far as the largest person in each two-person bucket. So consider this just in case you happen to be riding with someone smaller or larger than you are. I was riding at about 325 pounds when I recorded this video, and I had plenty of room. I think someone up to about 400 pounds should be able to manage this ride without much difficulty, depending of course on your exact body style and body dimensions. Now these three rides are the only rides over here in Dinoland USA. So what we're going to do now is go out Dinoland USA North here under the giant dinosaur. You're going to go right past the Finding Nemo the musical, which unfortunately I haven't seen yet, so I can't give you a critique on that, but anyway, for this video we're just focusing on rides, so we're going to skip by that anyway. We're going to go over the bridge on the river, and as you go over the bridge you're going to start to see our next attraction, which is going to be Everest, Expedition Everest. This is the ride seat for Expedition Everest. As you can see, this coaster is equipped with individual bucket seats for its riders. And although at first it may appear that the high sidewalls may be a bit confining, these seats are actually fairly roomy. If you're like me and have a little bit of extra fluff around your middle, these sidewalls will compress you inward some and force your lower torso area forward somewhat. Luckily though, as I mentioned, the seats are pretty roomy and there is only this one standard lap bar to contend with. This bar will pull forward no different than any other coaster with a single lap bar restraint. You do, however, have to fit your legs between the metal framing of the lap bar to be able to ride, so just keep that in mind in case you have any issues bringing your knees together. When I rode Everest for the first time, I weighed in at about 325 pounds, and here's the picture of that ride. Now this ride didn't give me any issues at that time, and I could see someone upwards of 400 to 425 pounds being able to ride, depending of course on your exact body style and dimensions. Overall, the fit is very similar to rides such as Seven Dwarfs Mine Train or Slinky Dog Dash. If you know you can fit on either one of those rides, then Expedition Everest shouldn't give you much trouble. As you come out of Expedition Everest, you're going to look left here on the map, but you're going to be taking a right as you come out of the ride exit, and you're going to go over here, and you're going to find the entrance to Kali River Rapids. Kali River Rapids is a raft-style water ride that can hold up to 12 people per vehicle. Here is the ride seat. Guests are seated in pairs in a circle, facing a center bar that can be used to hang on to if desired. The individual seats are actually a little bit on the narrow side, but luckily, there is no center divider on the seat pairs, so if necessary, someone a bit larger can overlap into the secondary seat for a little extra hip room. If you're a larger person like me, I recommend riding without someone next to you, or someone very small like a child. Now, even though there are no center dividers in the seat pairs, the seat belts do have individual seat belts as the sole restraint. And like all belted Disney rides, these belts are very large and forgiving, and should leave enough room to get around someone in the 400 plus pound range, although you may have to reach behind and under a bit to reach your buckle. If you have ridden other raft style rides, then you will find Kali River Rapids to be very familiar, and chances are, if you're able to ride those others, Kali should not give you any trouble. We're going to come here across from the exit to Kali River Rapids, and we're gonna go across quite a ways here before we hit our next ride. We're gonna go into Africa, take a right, and gonna find our way over here to Kilimanjaro Safaris. I'm not going to spend more than a couple seconds on the Kilimanjaro Safari seats because there's really nothing to it. As you can see here, it's just a bench seat. There are no restraints, you just sit down and have a good time. There's not even a step up. The vehicle pulls up to the loading platform, and the seats and the floor in the vehicle are even with the loading platform, so you just walk right on without even a step up or step down. As long as you can fit through this little opening here to get into the seat, you can ride. There are no restrictions, so have a good time and I hope it helps. Now, outside Kilimanjaro Safaris, to the left of that ride, to the right here on the map, you're going to find the entrance to the Wildlife Express train, which will take you all the way up to Rafiki's Planet Watch. There's no rides back here at Rafiki's Planet Watch. It's just another animal exhibit, which is great. But, again, we're focusing on rides, and the train is a ride, but I wasn't able to ride it when I visited the park because it is a seasonal ride now. It's a seasonal attraction over there at Rafiki's Planet Watch, so it may or may not be open when you go, so just be aware of that. Now, if you don't want to go to the Wildlife Express train, or if it's not running this time of year, you can go south or straight out of the Kilimanjaro Safaris, and you can come down here to the edge of the Africa exhibit. You can take a right or a left on the map here and go past the Festival of the Lion King, or you can go over this bridge, which will take you through the Discovery Island area. I'm going to recommend you go past the Festival of the Lion King back behind here, because it's going to be a straighter path to our next area, and it's going to be less crowded than going through the center of the Discovery Islands here, where all the shops and restaurants are, and where they funnel all the people through by the Tree of Life. And what we're going to come to as we come down south on this path is Pandora World of Avatar. And the first ride you're going to come to in Pandora World of Avatar is Avatar Flight of Passage. Now, before we get too deep into the pre-show video here, I want to show you my tips for fitting into the seat. Now, as you sit down, what's going to happen is these restraints are going to come up in these 3 locations that I've circled, in the small of your back and behind each of your calves. Now, the first one is going to come up straight like this. It's going to rotate upward as you sit down and get into the front chest harness, push into your back, while these other 2 will rotate from the side and go back in behind your legs as so. I'm going to switch over to a side view so I can show you how these things are going to lock into place and give you a couple tips for how I think it's going to be your best bet of fitting in here. Now, what you're going to want to do is, if you have big feet like I do, I wear a size 12 shoe, and I was wearing hiking shoes at the time, so they were a little bigger than my normal size 12, is you're going to angle your foot upward as I've drawn here. And what that's going to do is it's going to make your calf sit a little bit forward, so it gives that flap behind your leg a little bit more room to fold inward. Especially if you're a big person, you probably have bigger calves too, so that's going to become an issue. And to achieve this, what you're going to want to do is lift your knees and your thighs upward and push them as far as you can against the top of the restraint. Now, I learned these couple tips that I'm sharing here because I got to ride the thing twice. We were on an after-hours pass, so we kind of got to walk on. We didn't have to wait the full 2 or 3 hours like someone would normally have to wait. So the first time we got in here, I'm going to circle the back area here, because that's where the back restraint's going to come up. When it came up on me the first time, she had to, the ride attendant had to push it and force it in place. She had to give it a good shove just to get it to lock in there. And as I was sitting, I was able to adjust myself, so I had a good feel as for how I needed to sit the next time I rode this ride, so it would lock into place without needing the extra restraint, the extra push to get in there. So these tips I'm giving you, I developed from sitting there after getting locked in the first time. And what I did is I lifted my knees and my calves and my feet like I showed you on the leg restraints, and that helped me get into place there. But what you're also going to want to do, because this is going to be your biggest issue, is you're going to want to sit as far in front of that chest harness as you can and arch your back inward. By sitting up straight and arching your back as inward as possible, what it's going to do is give that back restraint as much room as possible to push up into the thinnest part of your body, which, if you're arching your back properly, is going to be that concave spot just above your waistline and just below where your back meets your middle, as you can see from the picture that I've drawn for you here. And I did this the second time I went through. I arched my back inward, I pulled my knees up, pulled my feet up, and it helped me to push my calves forward, and everything locked right into place, and I didn't need the assistance the second time through. So I think that is going to be your best bet at fitting onto this ride. After you finish with Flight of Passage, you're going to take a right out of the exit, come down here southeast, where you're going to find the entrance to the Navi River Journey. Here is the boat to the Navi River Journey. As you can see, it's just like any other boat ride in Disney. there's not going to be any restraints, so there's not really going to be a weight restriction. The only thing is, you're going to have to be able to step over the side into the boat. As long as you can do that, you can ride, and it's not going to give you any trouble at all. Now, after you exit the Navi River journey, you're going to go back north here, across the bridge out of Pandora World of Avatar, and it's going to actually take you back to the front of the park. With that being said, though, that's going to cover all the rides we have in Animal Kingdom today, and thank you guys for watching. I hope it helped.